All right, we have all these special graphics, a big promotion, the music. You've heard it all ahead of Iowa. The caucus is, of course, kicking off a little more than 9 days from now. The guy who's a lot of people are watching and thinks that, he's the only one who's visited all the counties in this entire state joins us right now, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. Governor, very good to see you.
Good morning.
Let me get your take on how the political pros or wonks are weighing what you got to do. They say you got to win, and that without a win, your campaign's toast. You've heard that. I just wanted you to respond.
You got to love these folks. Look, you got to win a majority of the delegates. I mean, this is a lengthy, dynamic process. I actually like, when people try to count me out and the underdog. That gives us a great opportunity to really put points on the board and surprise some people. But look, we've done it right here. We've gone to all 99 counties. We visited folks. We go and take questions from voters every single day. I show up to town halls on TV. We're going to do one with Fox next week. We show up to debates. We do all this stuff. And that's how you got to do it to do well in the Iowa caucus. And I think that this is not like a normal primary election. You just punch your ticket and go home. This is a commitment. It's going to be probably very cold weather. We've got snow. I'm in Dubuque right now. There's snow on the ground, much different from where we got in Florida. And it's probably going to be even a lot colder then. People are going to come. So we've got an army of committed people that are going to go. We're adding more every day. We've got great organization. And this is traditionally the way you got to do it. So I'm proud of all the effort that we have. And I'm proud that we're going to be able to bring this to great fruition here very shortly.
You might pull it off. I mean, these polls can be all over the map, but we've never seen one that features the Republican candidate leading by so much, Donald Trump leading by this big amount. So that's hard to see it get frittling away. If that were to happen, some say it would be because you and Nikki Haley have divided the vote as the alternative candidates. Do you agree with that? Do you think that her emergence has maybe hurt you?
So look, what I offer, the way I view the primary is this. Donald Trump's running for his issues. Nikki Haley's running for her donors' issues. I'm running for your issues, your family's issues, and the issues that are affecting this country. That's my sole focus. And I have a record to back that up of delivering on 100% of my promises in the state of Florida and taking on the left and beating the left. No other one running has done that. I mean, Neil, just now, I think you guys saw some of the reports about the teacher union because of the reforms we did in Florida to say you can't do automatic deduction of union dues. Now, because we've empowered teachers, a lot of them aren't joining. And the Dade County Teacher Union, third largest in the country, is on the brink of decertification. When has a Republican ever fought and won against them? We beat Soros, we beat Fauci, we've done all this. So that's, I think, what really separates us. I'm more reflective of the conservative values that that you see here in Iowa than either of the other two candidates, and particularly somebody like a Nikki Haley. She was in New Hampshire saying that Iowa's votes need to be corrected by other states. That has gone over like a lead balloon here in the state of Iowa. I can tell you that. And Donald Trump has not been willing to answer questions. He doesn't do the type of meet and greets and town halls that are staple here. He hasn't been willing to participate in any debates. In fact, we did have a debate. We have a debate scheduled. I accepted. Haley accepted. He declined, and then he scheduled the town hall on Fox News Channel where he could have easily debated. So there's a contrast here, and I think that ultimately we're the one that's going to have earned the votes.
You mentioned Nikki Haley's comments in New Hampshire about Iowa. Chris Sununu, the New Hampshire governor who's supporting her, said it was just a joke and a reference to the fact that Donald Trump would probably win Iowa and that folks in New Hampshire would correct it. Having said that, though, in the middle of all of this, Nikki Haley said that she would maybe consider you as a possible vice presidential running mate. What did you think of that?
Well, I can tell you I am not going to accept that under any circumstances. I'm running for president because I think we need somebody that can win and get the job done. But I would much rather do my final 2 years as governor, 25 and 26, than be vice president. I don't think it's a position that offers much. I want to make an impact, Neil. I'm in office to be able to deliver results to people, and to take a position where you're not going to be able to deliver results for anyone, that just doesn't appeal to me. I do think, though, it's interesting. She refuses to rule out whether she would be Donald Trump's running mate if Trump were to be the nominee. And that's, I think, important because she's really catered to a lot of Democrat donors, Democrat-leaning voters, a lot of people that are basically very anti-Trump and have actually donated a lot of money in the past to oppose Donald Trump. And so they're viewing her as the vessel to be an anti-Trumper, and yet she will not rule this out. So the question is, why can't she just give a straight answer? Either yes, you would accept, or no, you would not. And instead, we get the typical politician speak. I've said definitively, no, that's not what I'm running for, and we're in it to win it.
All right. Many a candidate who emerged as a vice presidential running mate have said exactly what you said. So I assume by what you're saying, you would say the same about Nikki Haley being your running mate.
Right. So here's, because I get asked about a running mate all the time.
Yeah.
I think there's two criteria you have to have. One, you got to be someone that can be president, so you have to have the experience and judgment. And then two, you've got to share our values and kind of our vision on that. I'm partial to governors because I think they've been in an executive position, but I wouldn't want to put someone on there that would take the country in a different direction than what I campaigned on. And I think she's running more on more liberal issues rather than the standard conservative policies that I think have proven to work in states like Florida and Iowa. And so in that sense, you know, a lot of people supporting me, you know, if I wasn't running, a lot of them would prefer Donald Trump to Nikki Haley on policy, because I think that she represents more of the corporatist Republican bent, and that just has not been popular. It has not delivered results for people in many, many years. I think Florida, we've shown how to do it.
Governor, you know, this is the third anniversary of January 6th. You're aware of what the President of the United States was making of that, speaking around Valley Forge, but the significance of the date and what happened there. And I don't want to get into the weeds on this, sir, but the impression that a lot of people have is that Republicans, especially influential, powerful Republicans, politicians, those who are in a position of power in the House or the Senate, are glossing over that day and not blaming the former president for anything that day. Do you have any concern about the president's role, Donald Trump's role that day, and whether he instigated something that historically had the feel of an insurrection?
Well, two things. One is, obviously, you know, you had a protest, it devolved into a riot. I mean, that's not a good thing, but I think what the left has done and what Biden's done is they've really tried to weaponize that against their political opponents. I mean, you remember he gave that speech in front of that blood red background where he's shaking his fist, basically saying that people that were supported Trump were basically enemies of the state, he was trying to say. I think he's doing the same thing to demonize people there. At the same time, I think just looking forward as Republicans, we'll win in 24 if we're holding Biden accountable and talking about the issues that are affecting the American people. You know, my concern with Donald Trump being the nominee is the entire campaign will be subsumed with legal issues, criminal trials, and January 6th. I think that this is going to be something that they use against him. And unfortunately, I think it's proven to be effective with a certain subclass of voters that you need to win to be able to win a general election. So I know, like the liberal corporate media, January 6th is akin to their Christmas. They are going to take this and blow it up. And I think a lot of Republicans have reacted against that, because it's one thing to say, okay, you know, these things shouldn't have happened. But it's another thing, you know, to wave the bloody shirt and try to impugn, you know, tens of millions of Americans as a result of that. And so Biden, he had a chance to be a uniter for this country, and he has failed. He has chosen division every step of the way.
Nevertheless, on that January 6th, I mean, you talk about Americans and how the left might be using this to sort of galvanize them. But a majority in your own party, Governor, and you yourself, were critical at the time of how this got out of control. And I'm just wondering, that has changed, and maybe the politics, the polls, and the performance of Donald Trump in some of these key states, to your point, rightly could change. But it is what it is, and people have recognized the political reality that there's no good in criticizing Donald Trump or criticizing his actions that day, because it's just not good politics. Do you think that's a mistake?
Well, Neil, I think also it's just, well, look, no, I think at some point it's like, okay, it happened. A lot of people were you know, made comments at the time. But it's like, at some point, are we going to move on and focus on the people's issues? Because I can tell you, here in Iowa, when I'm taking questions, when I'm in New Hampshire doing town halls in these other states, this is not on top of mind for voters. They're asking about issues affecting their lives. They're asking about issues affecting a lot of the corruption in D.C. So in that sense, I think it's just, you want to be addressing the issues that really matter to the people. Now, I do think practically, this will be something that the Democrats would wield against a candidate, Trump, if he were the nominee. And I do think, unfortunately, it would likely be effective. And I think that there's a lot of Republicans who acknowledge that. At the same time, it's like they have politicized this to no end. They did a massive committee and spent how much money on it. And now they're using it basically as one of their main issues in the 2024 campaign.
We shall see. Governor DeSantis, very good seeing you again. Be well.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.